Imports coming in from pipeline. Interestingly enough, the gas isn't coming from one of the most secure areas of the world either in terms of geopolitics. But increasingly, we're getting gas shipped in as liquefied natural gas in very large containers. But when we talk about energy, you know, one of the things that we often think about is we think about electricity and you know, how do we get the electricity? But it's much more significant than that. And Simon will touch on this in far greater depth than I will. But the availability of oil is inherent in almost everything we do, both from manufacturing and transportation. And Jonathan, who's produced with the notes, obviously is aware of the importance of local agriculture to the Warwickshire communities, and highlights the fact, you know, the importance in the production of fertilisers. Just to give you an example of it runs through everything that happens. Back to the oil and gas. Gas. At the moment, we've got about 14 days of storage capacity, and I think if you recall during the last winter, where we had a very severe cold snap, an extended cold snap, there were serious doubts as to whether we would have enough capacity from gas that was stored in the UK. 14 days is what we've got. Hopefully that will increase with projects that are currently in the pipeline to around 20 days. And to give you some comparison, Germany has approximately 77 days worth of storage, and France has 90 days worth of storage. So even allowing for some development work, we're still some way aside from that. I won't dwell very much on oil because Simon, I know, will, but 1999 was when we were at peak production in relation to North Sea oil. We were at 2.9 million barrels a day. By 2020, we were expected to be on or around 500,000 barrels a day. Significantly, however, what we are finding in relation to North Sea oil is it's becoming less and less economic. It's becoming more and more expensive to get the remaining oil deposits that exist in the North Sea out. That has an impact both upon the availability of the oil and potentially upon the cost as it moves into the supply chain. We have got some improved extraction techniques. I won't mention the Gulf of Mexico again, probably best not to. So what we've got in terms of the context, realistically, is there's a very high cost of some of the infrastructure, and there's a relative shortage of skills and quite a lot of demand for those skills. We've got issues about geopolitics and where our supplies are coming from, which brings forward potentially interruptions, but most definitely brings forward uncertainties. Russia, Georgia, from again last year. Last year was a very momentous, very moving year, wasn't it? When you stand back and think about some of the things that happened last year. Generally accepted that the era of cheap electricity, gas and oil is over. We may get to the situation whereby supply, where demand may exceed supply, and it's becoming much more costly in terms of our energy that we use and where we get it from. What we want to talk about in the last session is, given the context and given what Simon will now tell you, what does that mean for us locally? But we did want to dwell on the context because the reality is we don't think we can have an informed conversation about what it may mean for us unless we've got over some of the contextual issues. And you know, some of those contextual issues are way up here, realistically. With that, what I'd like to do is... I must leave you with these two quotes because I deliberately got these two quotes. And to ensure political balance, as every good officer does, I've tried to get two quotes from politicians. They are at rather different ends of the political spectrum. But the first quote is from Prime Minister Vladimir Putin, one end of the spectrum, hopefully, who said in November 2008, "The expenses necessary for developing fields are rising sharply, and this means that despite the current problems in finances, the era of cheap energy resources, of cheap gas, is of course coming to an end." That did follow on from some issues that they'd had. And then bringing us right up to date, on the 14th of May, David Cameron, the UK's new Prime Minister, went to speak to staff at the Department of Energy and Climate Change and told them that there were 3 areas that he wanted the department to focus on. First one was climate change. First one was the green economy. The second one was climate change. And then the third one, and thirdly, there is the issue of energy security, which I think is vitally important, which we need to do a huge amount of work on. And I think what I've tried to do in those 2 quotes is actually say in a short period of time, the political spectrum that exists across the world does seem to be getting slightly narrower in terms of energy security. That narrowing of political differences potentially means that the issues that we do have are more significant than potentially we thought they may have been no more than 5 years ago.